Well, hello there. I'm going to show you how to make a blanket in my Juniper Berry Stitch. Now you could actually make a shawl if you wanted to, make it smaller than this. This is going to be a small blanket, either for an infant or for a lap blanket for somebody, perhaps somebody in a wheelchair, however you want to use it. And there's Juniper Berry Stitch starting in here. Okay, so the yarn I'm using is, I love this chunky yarn by Hobby. It's from Hobby Lobby, and the color is Herb Garden. Okay, and it's a bulky. And then I'm using a 5/8 inch loom, and this one has 54 pegs, and I'm using every peg. I'm using every peg in it. If it's the biggest one in this circle sets. If you're using a 3/4 inch, it's your big one. Okay, and you can make it bigger than that if you want. I've marked the 3 pegs on the end, on each end, with markers, because they're always going to be owl eye stitch, these 3 pegs. So I've marked them, and I marked them in different colors so I don't accidentally join my 2 edge pieces here. Okay, and our border was done in owl eye. So what I'm going to do, I should tell you my loom hook too. This is the loom hook I'm using. It's from We Have a Handle on This, and they don't make them anymore, but you can get very similar ones on Etsy. Okay, so I have a video already of the cast on and the first few rows, so I'll take you there, and then we'll get back here and we'll get started. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to get started. So first thing we do is we just take this and do a slip knot, and there's a lot of different ways to do a slip knot. I just twist it around like this and stick the yarn through and put it on the first peg and tighten. Now if you want, you can put it on there, or you can just hold it tight if you don't have one. And then this is a crochet chain cast on, so all we do is stick the loom hook inside the loop, scoop up the working yarn like this so we get a loop, pull the loop out, and then make sure this is tight here. You want the stitch to be tight. You can put down your loom hook now, and you're just going to take that loop, and you're in control of the loop. You can make the loop bigger or smaller. Okay, so make sure it's held tight there. Put it around the next peg, take the working yarn and pull it through and tighten it. Behind the next peg, pull it through and snug it up. Behind, snug it up. Behind, snug it up. Very easy. Behind, snug it up. Loop's getting too long, just shorten it. Behind, snug it up. Behind, snug it up. Then when you get to the last peg in the pattern, you're just going to put it on like that. Take the working yarn over, take your loom hook and knit it over, and there you are. And then all we're going to do is a row of owl eye. Okay, so we're going to go over the first 2 pegs like this, nice and loose, and we're going to knit them off. Okay, got the working yarn. We're going to go over the next 2 pegs, knit them off, and just because this is so bright, I'm going to turn this down a little bit so you can see better, because we're white and then we've got a creamier colored yarn here. Okay, so we're going to go behind wherever we are. We're on peg 1, so go over peg 1 and 2, nice and loose. Wherever the working yarn is peg 1. We go in front and over 1 and 2. That's all there is to it. We're on peg 1. We go over 1 and 2, Very, very easy stitch. Run peg 1, go over 1 and 2. On peg 1, we go over peg 1 and 2. On peg 1, go over 1 and 2. And then over the last 2. Keeping it nice and loose. We come around. We want this to be loose, so you might even want to pull this out. We want to make sure it stays loose. And we go over these 2 again, over the next 2. And we're just going to do a few rows of owl eye. Okay, and that's to start this pattern. This will be our edge. We come back, same way, nice and loose, knit it off. Okay, and we're going to go back. So this will be our 3rd row of owl eye. And we're just going to take a look and see how much work we have. And that looks pretty good for the base. Okay, so we did 3 rows, and that's going to be our base. If you want, you can do 1 more row. Maybe you've done your piece wider or longer than mine and you want to have a longer base here. You can decide, and you can put in another row before we start into the pattern. Okay, so let's get back to the piece we're working on, and we will see you there. Okay, so now that you've cast on, let's get started with how to work this. Okay, so we go first, and we're going to go over the first 3 pegs that are marked. So they're going to be done in owl eye stitch. So we go over 1 and 2, nice and loose, just like this. And then we do our 2nd stitch on owl eye. Okay, and now we're going to do the stitch, and it's a 1-row stitch. We'll always be doing the same stitch, only the end pegs are different. And we're doing Juniper Berry. So how we do this is we go around it and around it again. So we're going around it twice, and you are in control. It's the working yarn going around it twice. Now we're going to take the bottom peg over the working yarn, which is these 2 pieces. Okay, so it's like my Juniper stitch, except that with Juniper we take over both of them, and that creates a certain look, and it's looser. This is a tighter, a bit different of a look, but you still get that zigzaggy look, and it's tighter. So this is what you want to use when you want a tighter stitch, and you use Juniper when you want a looser stitch. Okay, so take the bottom one over the 2 top. Now here's where you can get confused, because one can go over the other. So you just take your working yarn and go up, and you'll see which one is the top one. Because if you loosen them, when you pull the top one, it'll be the one that tightens, so you'll know. So now you go over the top one, and then you just snug it up. So you go around twice, bottom one over the top, and the next one over. Snug it. Not too tight. You don't want it to really tighten up, but you want it to be loose enough. You can get it over easily, but you don't want it to be really slack. So we just snug it up a bit. And snug. And so that's all there is to it. Very, very easy stitch. Lots of fun too to do. And after all, you're just doing it on one peg. So you can be even or odd, it doesn't matter. Doesn't curl. And we have the nice owl eye border, and that won't curl. Okay, so go around twice, bottom one over the top two, next one over, snug, bottom one over the top two, next one over, snug. So I'm going to put you on pause while I work my way to the end of the row, and we will see you in a bit. Okay, did my last juniper stitch in the row, and now I'm at the 3 marked pegs, so it's owl eye. So we knit a U-wrap over the first peg, then we go over 1 and 2. On the first peg, go over 1 and 2. We come back being very loose, so loosen it if you need to. Okay. We go over 1 and 2. And then we do the second stitch on this one. And then we do the Juniper Berry stitch, because every row is like the other row. Snug it, and this is how you do it this way. Okay, and that's all there is to it. Snug this up a little bit better. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so you just keep going, and you keep doing that, and you do the owl eye edge. Now let me get this down here. As you can see, it's it's growing a lot more. You can see what a nice stitch it is and how it's quite a bit tight. Lots tighter than Juniper stitch. Has a similar look to it. And how it looks with the nice border. Okay, so have fun. Do it as long as you want your blanket to be, and we will catch up at bind off, and we'll see you then. Enjoy. Okay, so do this as long as you want. I'm going to take you to the cast off video right away so you can get started, and I can get the video out right away. And you just do the same thing you did at the beginning. Now if you want to use garter stitch instead, go ahead. You can use any edging you want, but if you use the owl eye, then do the same thing at the end and do the few rows of owl eye and then the bind off. If you're using garter before you go into the stitch, then do the same thing. Do a few rows of garter before the bind off, and the bind off look and cast on looks good with that stitch too. Okay, so I'll take you there. I hope you enjoyed the video. You make a really nice blanket and you like it, or even a shawl. Okay, we'll see you next time. So now we will be binding off. So what we do is we just measure 1, go down there, we come back 2 because we want to be long enough, and then they say, most people say do it about 3 times, so I'm going to do it close to 3 times. And I'm just going to put you on pause because I have to find a scissors and a needle. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm going to cut it right here. There we go, and I have my needle. I'm threading the needle. Okay, And I'm just going to give this a little tug here so it's not too loose. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go down. So I'm going to go inside this loop on this peg and put the working yarn through it and snug it up, and then I'm going to go back up the first peg. Okay, snug it up a bit, and I'm going to go around the second peg and in front of it, and then I'm going to go down this peg and then up the second peg, snugging it up as I go, and then around between the two pegs and around the front. So basically that's all we're going to be doing, is we're going to be going down the peg in front, back to the peg we had done before, and then going around. So down the peg and around and up the peg. And around, and then down the next peg, up the peg before. Let's get this close right now, and we're always pulling it tight, and then between the two pegs we just did, around, and then we'll be going down this next peg, making sure the working yarn doesn't get all hung up the peg before, and around, tightening it as I go, down, up, and around, down, and then up and around, and then down the last one. Whoop, and the needle came out. So we better redo the needle. Okay, and then up, and there we've gone through every peg. So we're just going to go back down the first one like that, and I'm going to come down it again like that. There, just to secure it more, and then you'll just be weaving in your end. So now you can take it off the loom. Okay,